Overstimulation gives this feeling of a fried brain. When your routine gets more chaotic, you yourself are less rational and less stoic. Doing what you need to do gets much harder, and you find yourself doing what you really shouldn't be doing. So, first of all, what is overstimulation? It's draining of your nervous system, but more specifically, it's draining of your prefrontal cortex, which is something right at the front of your brain. You use it for deep thinking, attention, memory, most importantly, planning. And what do you need planning for? You need for delayed gratification, right? Remembering your consequences, making hard decisions like suffering now to get something later. And when it's drained, it simply shuts off. So it's not working anymore. And then all hell breaks loose. You stop being rational, you get more primitive. You start to act on your impulses more easily. So, first of all, you get more emotional, like you get more angry. When you're refreshed, you're more stoic, you don't allow your emotions control you that much. But when you're tired, you get angry over insignificant things, or maybe you get anxious. These moments when you're scared but you don't really know what you're scared of. And maybe for you it could be presented in you crying more easily, getting more sensitive. So it's so you get more emotional, also get more forgetful. These moments when you put something and then you immediately forget where you put it, or you leave your room to go to the kitchen and on the staircase you stop and think, oh, where am I going? Why am I going there? These brain farts is a symptom of overstimulation. Also, you crave more cheap dopamine, once again, because you cannot uh, rely on delayed gratification anymore. You more easily act on your impulses, chasing instant gratification. Because you cannot plan, you forget about the consequences. You only remember the emotions that you're feeling at the moment. You get more irrational. You have this brain fog when you can't concentrate, right? Because you use prefrontal cortex for your attention and you don't have that. It's shut off. You want to skip the gym. You want to not meditate today. Start slacking on your good habits. You want to quit them. And you start procrastinating. You find yourself that you can't start the task that before you would easily start, right? So overstimulation is often the first step toward a rut, when you just doing bullshit all day. And also, you find yourself not having enough energy to make decisions. You get overwhelmed very easily. Someone texts you and you don't even have energy to respond to them, so you kind of just ghost them. And the more drained the prefrontal cortex is, the worse the symptoms are. Depending on how badly it's drained, it can shut off partially or completely. And you cannot force your way out of it. So you cannot just watch a YouTube short with David Goggins motivation and then get back to work. Actually, that will just drain you more. It's like with the gym. You cannot hit the PR every day, right? Sometimes you're just tired. There are two main causes for overstimulation, which is basically work, trying to work on your maximum capacities all the time, every day, and too little rest. Prolonged stress that could be linked to your work, right? Not taking days off, all that stuff, working for 12 hours every day, it just drains you. And if you don't give yourself time to recover, well, you're getting overstimulated. But also, you add to that bad habits. Because obviously, there are many people who don't work at all. They just play video games all day and scroll TikTok, and they're usually more overstimulated than someone who just works all day. So, work on maximum capacities, bad habits like scrolling, porn, YouTube, video games, too little sleep, shitty diet, and we're gonna talk about it more later, but also too many commitments, especially solving other people's problems before you have solved yours, following other people's expectations, doing something for others that you don't want to do or you don't need to do, you don't feel like you need to do it for yourself. They just too much pressure that leads to overstimulation. Now, the most important part, how to recover and how to prevent it in the future. It's much easier to prevent because when you're already overstimulated, you just crave more stimulation. It's much easier to make rational decisions when the rational part of your brain is still working. So let's get to it. First of all, get enough sleep. It's very important, but no one cares about it as much as they say they do. I talked to one guy recently, and he told me that he was practically depressed and had suicidal thoughts because he was so lazy. He couldn't make himself to do anything he needed to. His diet was shitty. He watched porn. He used to work out in the past, but he didn't anymore for more than a month. And he slept for 4 hours a night. And I recommended to him just to focus on his sleep. Just first things first, like just get enough sleep. And he did. That night, he went to bed. He slept for 7 hours. He told me that he just wakes up after that. He just can't sleep for any longer. At the very next day, he started working out properly. He started studying for his exam. He started planning what he's going to do about his career. So it was like an overnight life change. He got so disciplined again. Months of a rut. Just one night of good sleep. Look, online, there are a lot of advice on how to get this like good sleep, avoid blue light, don't look on your phone, but it doesn't really work for me. Whenever I try to do like the right way, I just toss and turn, and then the weirdest symptom, I just wake up randomly at 2 a.m. Whenever I avoid blue light and whenever I do it the right way, like just unwinding a couple hours prior to bed, my sleep sucks. So what I do is I practically retard max my sleep. I just read something from my phone, or I may even watch YouTube, something that's very stimulating, and that gets me much better sleep. I sleep like a baby, and I fall asleep really fast, and I feel refreshed. So if you're someone like me, don't force yourself to do it the right way. Just a couple tips. Don't text before sleep, because social interactions wake you up really fast, and you're much more likely to just text for hours and ruin your sleep schedule. And also, nothing too stimulating. If you watch the news, my advice is not to watch it ever. Like, really, don't watch the news, but especially don't do it right before sleep, and don't watch anything like movies, emotional movies, anything like that. So nothing that will stir you up. Then, no multitasking. Everyone knows it in theory, but once again, no one actually follows it in practice. So if you go with your phone. When you cook, you reply to your clients. When you eat, you watch something on YouTube. That's multitasking. You think you're gonna be more effective like that, but you're not. Actually, you would be more effective if you just gave your brain some time to unwind. It's like with the gym, right? You rest for 3 minutes after each set. If you don't, you're just gonna do a shitter set, okay? This multitasking, this constant change of focus drains your brain really quick, and it's just a recipe for overstimulation in a matter of, what, half an hour? Or maybe even less. Diet is also very important. If you have any deficiencies, you're gonna feel more tired and your brain will have much less resources. Obviously, you may not have as much money to have like a perfect diet, but you just do what you can. Recently, I talked to ChatGPT and it told me that I didn't have enough iodine in my diet. So I started adding this iodized salt to my meals. And even with the iodine deficiency, it just makes you feel much more tired and makes you dumber. Actually, I found out that every fourth person in the world has iodine deficiency. So maybe you should consult with ChatGPT and it could give you an insight on something that you could actually change. Sensory deprivation. It basically comes down to not watching anything unnecessary, not listening to anything unnecessary, not saying anything unnecessary. So when it comes to watching, obviously it's the news, the brain rot content, any kind of negativity, arguments. You should avoid toxic people because they can overstimulate you really quickly. And if you find yourself really, really tired, really overstimulated, you should interact less with people overall. Don't talk to girls you don't care about just to stroke your ego. That also drains you quickly. Do your share of digital detox. Don't ever scroll TikTok or YouTube shorts or reels. That's just a recipe for overstimulation. Avoid video games. Also, if you're really, really drained, you should avoid even educational content, educational books. If you find yourself really needing rest, you got to remember that even education drains your energy. Sometimes what I find useful is just putting a chair next to the wall and just looking at the wall, right? When I feel like this overstimulation brain fog, even 10, 15 minutes of looking at the wall can be very curative. Also, what's good is putting a chair in the bathroom, turning off the lights, and just sitting there in silence and in the darkness. And you will notice the difference even 15 minutes later. You feel much less of this fried brain feeling. But also, other tips, if you find yourself really overstimulated, is build your routine so that you have to do less thinking overall. Okay? Fewer choices, making fewer choices, not thinking about what you need to wear, just wear what you have. Okay? Wear whatever you take out first out of your wardrobe. Less choices about what you need to eat. I just eat the same diet every day. Imagine how much energy it would take if I actually had to come up with new dishes every day. And also, you need to track everything. You need to track the calories. You need to track the protein. It takes so much mental energy that would be much more usefully utilized somewhere else. If you find yourself really drained, a break from the gym or other hard physical activity will be also very helpful because fatigue, mental and physical, are connected. When your brain is cooked, you probably notice that your performance at the gym also suffers a lot. And if you go to the gym and train hard there, after that, some mental work will also be much more difficult. So if you need radical recovery, take a couple weeks off the gym. And if you're a regular gym goer, that will actually be productive because it will give your tendons, muscles extra rest. So when you come back, you actually see that your strength and your performance got better, not worse. Delegate your tasks. Ask for help. Okay? Don't do everything yourself. The less commitments you have, the less likely you are to get overstimulated, but also the quicker you will recover. So if you can ask someone to help you to do something for you, you should. Don't feel shy to do it. Learn to give up some of the control and trust it. Okay? Drop the tasks that are not necessary. The less you have to do, the less you drain yourself, the more mental energy you have for what really matters and what no one except you can do. Go out on nature, preferably some familiar place that you have gone to multiple times, not in a city. We tend to think that walking, even in the city, is rest, but actually, I saw studies that showed that walking in the city does not help you unwind in any way because every car that passes by, every billboard, your brain analyzes that. So actually, after walking in the city, you can find yourself even more drained. In the nature, your mind relaxes much more, and there's not that many things that require your urgent focus. So it's much more useful for recovery, for mental recovery. Avoid cold showers. It's something that many influencers recommend, but it's stress on your nervous system. So if you find yourself drained, then actually should avoid those because you need less stress. As for sauna, it's amazing, and if you can go to sauna, it will actually help you to recover. And reflect on your lifestyle because you can use these tips, but if you don't figure out what brought you to this state and you go back to your routine where you overwork constantly, underrest, follow bad habits, then you'll find yourself in the exact same situation in a matter of months. So you gotta figure out what in your everyday life overstimulates you, what bad habits make you feel drained, so that you use this knowledge every day to build a smarter routine. So I hope this guy was helpful in any way for you. If it was, leave a comment and thank you for watching. By the way, if you're really into discipline and self-improvement, I have other videos on my channel that you should check out. Also, I have a free community on school. If you struggle with any bad habits, we can talk, and I have already helped several guys break their bad habits and addictions, so I'm sure I can help you somehow. I'll leave the link in the comments.